Welcome to Writers Radio. I'm your host, Ingrid Rose. It's a pleasure to share the work of Penny Allport, whose manuscript, Bringing Death Home, tells the story of her father's surprising decision to have a medically assisted death in spite of his Anglican beliefs. Among many of Penny's accomplishments, she's a life cycle celebrant who co-creates rituals to support people on their journey from birth to death. We enter the story as Penny learns that her father wants her to accompany him at this final stage of his life on earth.
This is an excerpt from my upcoming book called Bringing Death Home. July 3rd, 2022, 6:07 p.m. This is your dear old dad calling. So I just, whenever you can, call me back. I'd appreciate it. I'd have a chat with you. No problem. His voice stutters like a stone skipping across water, trails off in soft sounds, shuffling. The line goes dead. I play the message back more than a few times, struck by staccato speech. Mom does phoning now, most of the talking. It's 2 days after my 58th birthday, 22 days before his 85th. Curious to know what he wants to chat about. Too late to call back. Whenever I call my parents, Mom always answers, calls out loudly, "Fred, it's Penny on the phone. Pick up the other line." Or, "Just a minute, I'll put you on speaker. Dad's right here." I suck breath in through my nostrils. Sigh. Feel weight of body on the couch. Right leg bent, foot pressing into left thigh. Resist any urge to stop them. There's seldom opportunity to talk with one of them alone anymore. Rare not to hear my father's heavy breathing in the background. Mom admonishing him, "It's your daughter. Stop playing Sudoku." Next, the sound of familiar waft of air through my dad's nostrils, like a dragon puffing. Not wanting to say anything he might regret. Both Leos, born under hot summer sun, vocal and strong of character, I realize I have my own rituals to meet the two-headed lions I call my parents. Joined together at the hip after over 60 years of marriage, often miles apart in mind. I call the next morning. "Have you talked with your brother today?" "No, I haven't, Dad. My brother Doug and I aren't prone to chatting. He was here yesterday. We had a discussion." "About what, Dad?" "Well, I'm thinking I want to use that assistance program." I swallow hard, like when a vitamin gets stuck sideways in my throat, knowing exactly what kind of assistance program. My mind races. What about your minister? What about all the medical tests? Are the results yet? Hello? Are you there, Pen? Oh, sorry, Dad. Yes, I'm here. Uncurl right leg. Feel both feet on the ground. I was thinking if it works, I could maybe do it while you're here this summer. My eyes blink. Mind calculates number of days. Today, until my flight for a summer visit, 53. Brow furrows, stomach tightens. I'm holding my breath. I guess comes out like a gust of wind. Silence. I wonder where my mom is. I need a little time to take this in, Dad. Deep breath. Another. Of course, I want what you want for yourself. I know this is getting hard on you. Eyes spill tears onto cheeks. For the past year, he's not been doing well. Speech slurred, slow, falls, sometimes several in one day. Mum's calls, lists of things he can no longer do, lack of interest in almost everything. Television on, all the time. Right on, his repeated response when he hasn't a clue what I've just said. Well, think about it. I'm going to the doctor tomorrow. Remember, you're on a list for the lodge, I want to say. Maybe things might get better if you had more care, more. Stop, I tell my mind. Listen. Hear him. Just hear him. Unlike many seniors, Dad always said he'd be happy to go to the seniors' lodge where his mum died, live out his last days, months, or years, enjoying 3 meals a day, playing cribbage and cards. But his eyes are failing. Brain slow. Playing cribbage or Sudoku no longer easy. Life, as my father has known it, mostly on his own terms, is changing rapidly. But I never once considered he'd choose a medically assisted death. Breathe deep. I want what you want, Dad, and I can come sooner. Well, we can talk about it more. I'm sure you'll want to talk to your mother. Skipping stone of his voice stops. Awkward silence. Stomach lurches. My mouth opens wide in a yawn. Imagine his shaky hand holding the phone out to my mother. Hey, Pen. Her voice strangely calm. Hey, Mom. I guess he told you. Yeah. I must say I'm surprised, given what your minister thinks and all. What minister? Chin pulls back from phone, brow furrows. Their small stone 190-year-old church has experienced a steady decline of parishioners, to death, distance, lack of interest, a changing scene of interim ministers over the past several years. Still, I'm struck by her response. Okay, but when Divine was dying, you sent me that pamphlet. In 2019, when my 80-year-old friend Divine chose to die with MAID, Mum expressed interest, curiosity. Dad, not so much. In the mail one day, I received a pamphlet from a religious organization, Caring, Not Killing. Attached, a note in Mum's handwriting saying their current minister held a short meeting after church, let them all know she would not be part of doctor-assisted suicide. Dad had attended, returned home with the pamphlet. Somehow, I thought Dad agreed, I say. I know, Mum says, but now it's his decision. He and your brother talked yesterday. Who brought it up? I think your dad. Fred, did you bring it up to Doug, or did he? I did.
Penny Allport has accompanied a number of people in assisted dying. One of them was John Shields, whose 2011 memoir was titled The Priest Who Left His Religion in Pursuit of Cosmic Spirituality.
This is called The Ungrieved. New Year's Day, 2016. While staying in Victoria, considering a move to this city where my great-grandmother had a boarding house in the 1940s, a new friend, Robin Hood, and her husband, John Shields, invite me for dinner to their home in Oak Bay. Over roasted chicken, potatoes, and green salad, the three of us engage in a lively conversation. Strangely, it's about death. Savoring desserts from their favorite bakery, John's voice is soft, tender. My health is declining more rapidly now. After a car accident the previous year, John was diagnosed with amyloidosis, whereby abnormal proteins deposit in various tissues and organs in the body, leads to inevitable decline, debilitating pain, organ failure. I'm not afraid of death. John's contemplative manner is warming, inviting. And, he says, ceremony is important to me. I've been at several ceremonies for First Nations friends who've died over the years. We seem to be losing something in the West in this regard. I feel the same, John. In 2014, I was invited to the cremation ceremony of a high caste priest in Mass, a small village outside Ubud in Bali. Obviously, following well-worn practices and rituals, elaborate preparations for body and cremation were so extensive. The entire community participated. Floods of people spilled out of doorways like tributaries of a river flowing into the streets. I arrived in early morning, left after sunset. It was such a powerful experience. Yes, John's head is nodding. What else did you notice? Well, at one point I was sitting with a doctor and her family on a large mound of earth in the cremation grounds, patting the earth. She told me we were sitting on her father-in-law's body, waiting for a community cremation date due to lack of funds. While her children played and ate sweets purchased at little vendor carts, we watched as a large piñata-like white bull with gold horns burned, flames leaping high into the sky. Strangely, I remember feeling at home. Not home as a place, home as a feeling. After dinner, John sips tea. My death does not trouble me. I have an intuition. Individual consciousness goes on. I feel resonant with this too, John, and that ceremony supports this, can assist us through this transition. John and Robin nod, gaze at one another, smiling. When each of our 3 horses died on the Sunshine Coast, I say, we invited neighbors and their previous owners to participate with us in ceremony, sometimes lasting days. When the last one died, the vet said, Penny, your horses have had better send-offs and more respect in death than most humans I know. Laughing, I admit, I thought it was time to branch out. Maybe humans could use some ceremony too. Realizing the 3 of us could go on for days on this mutually resonant subject, in their case, imminently important, we agree to further discussions. Walking down to the bottom of their steep driveway, breathing in fresh ocean air, I have a feeling of expansion. That night, I remember a recent dream. I'm standing at the top of a staircase. Feels familiar. In previous dreams, I've safely descended the stairs. Sometimes there's a well at the bottom, sometimes a fire. Always a warm feeling of welcome, a sense of feeling at home. Something feels different this time. Off. Tentatively, I descend the first steps. Notice walls on either side aren't darkened as usual. My stomach lurches. Feet stop. Behind clear glass walls on either side of the stairs are thousands of human faces. People of all ages and race. Bulging eyes, grasping hands reach towards me. Lungs suddenly robbed of oxygen. I can barely breathe. Guts churn. About to turn back, a glow below catches my eye. I commit to making it down to a fire I anticipate burning there. Consciously breathing deep, feel contact of each stair meeting feet. Hands grip handrails on either side, one slow step down at a time. Eyes fix on the glow. Resist urge to look to either side. Afraid the glass will break. Feel these people begging for my attention. At the bottom, I move towards the glow of embers on the floor. Look around the dimly lit space. Chilled, arms cross, hands rub both arms, attempt to warm my body. Feel presence of others, not visible. Familiar. My stomach relaxes. Several figures step from the dark towards the center. Nostrils flare. Inhale deeply. Receive warm air. The fire snaps. Who are all these people, I ask. Silence. Who are they? Please tell me. A woman's soft voice. They are the ungrieved. They're rapidly increasing in numbers. Are making it difficult to communicate with you and others in the world. A loud popping sound. My body sits bolt upright. Eyes stare into black of night. What can I do? I ask aloud into the darkness. What can I do? The following morning, Robin calls. John and I would like you to be John's celebrant. We want your support through his death, green burial, and ceremony. Can you come by later today? John, Robin, and I continue to query modern culture's quick whisk of death away. Everything seems distant now. Speed it up somehow, says Robin. Experts in charge, with ashes delivered to your doorstep a few days later. When my mother died last year, I remember feeling it was too soon when the transport people arrived to take her body. She pauses, looks at John. It was way too soon. I was so shaken when they came to take her body away, I made John go with her. John nods, affirming. What is your personal relationship with the body, John? I ask. Well, I feel the body should be cared for with respect in death, just like in life. Over the coming weeks, Robin and I search several options for green burial. Take a ferry to an Anglican cemetery on Salt Spring Island. Visit Royal Oak Burial Park. A mutual and growing sense that the time between death and interment is important. John's conviction that consciousness goes on and quite possibly requires this time to make its journey ignites interest in having his body cared for at home after death. This will be my first experience tending somebody's body after death, I admit. We can have your body here at home. If friends or family wish to visit, they can. John smiles. Robin appears nervous and relieved at the same time. Legally, your body can't be cremated for 48 hours in British Columbia. In many cultures, there's a sense that at least 2 or 3 days are required for the soul and body to disengage. That seems about right, John responds. In John's enthusiasm for cosmic spirituality after leaving the Catholic Church as a priest years earlier, I find myself saying, "We'll take care of your body, John, so you can soar." He smiles. Your arrival on my horizon is fortuitous. I feel the same. John's heart feels open in all directions, clearly receptive to my care. At the same time, feel his priestly hand on my shoulder. John's death, well documented in the New York Times, missed what happened after. At John's home, several friends and neighbors wait. Incense burns on the 4 corners of his property in Oak Bay. Rose petals line the walkway into the backyard, where a yellow market tent stands. Gold fabric purchased at an earlier time for curtains but never used offers privacy. A hurricane lamp sits on a cabinet brought from the house. Candles and fire are lit. A neighbor offers extra firewood. Through a walkway lined with friends, John's body is wheeled under the tent, draped in purple, into the protective gaze of a transformation mask carved by Comina, First Nations friend from Flores Island. For 3 days, friends and family come and go, bring food, offer prayers, tend the fire, sing songs, share silence. Deer and raccoon included, beloved to John. An eagle circles overhead. Atmosphere is thick with timelessness, reverence. A Mayan man lingers long tending the fire, grief palpable. This is the closest I've felt to my village in Guatemala in 30 years of living in Canada, he says. A local choir director leads everyone in song. She sits on a bench beside me, whispers, "Penny, is this legal?" "Yes," I say. Her face lights up. "I bathed my mother's body after her death," she says. "I had no idea this was possible." Early on the 3rd morning, asleep in John's study, I'm startled awake by a large flash of light outside. A loud boom. Scramble out of bed, concerned something has happened in the fire pit. I slide the doors open into the backyard. Robin sits beside John's bed. Eyes wide, she looks at me. "Did you feel that?" For a long moment, we stare at one another, unable to speak. The stillness profound. At home later, I reflect on John's dream, shared the day before his death. "It was strange," he said. "I was making my way through a narrow hallway. Shards of broken glass and clutter everywhere amidst very troubled and disoriented people." John paused, glancing up at me. "I was sweeping up the broken glass, clearing a path for the others."
Tell me a bit about how you got into writing. Have you always been a writer?
Hmm. I would say I have been a writer since I wrote waves. I used to write waves on paper, just to feel the movement of my hand. I loved cursive writing. I wrote poetry as a child. I remember when my grade 7 teacher, who actually taught me cemetery study, which is in the book, and when he died of leukemia a couple of years, probably when I was in maybe high school or college, I remember writing poetry to help kind of process my feelings. I remember, yeah, writing. I had a journal always as a young person, and I loved writing short stories. And I was very good in English. And yeah, I loved the written word. I loved reading comprehension. I know it sounds like what a nerd, but I loved doing that in public school, teaching the grade ones reading when I was in grade 5. Yeah, so I've published a little bit. I have a story in the art of grief, but um, yeah, it's taken this narrative, I think, to write publicly, I guess.
Yeah.
I write people's love stories for their wedding, and I write, I would say, soul stories and not eulogies, or help families write the stories of others. So it's definitely honed writing for the public for me, I guess. Yeah.
So, how did this book take shape?
Well, there's so much in the present, but there are reflections in the book that I reflect to the past. I had 2 life-threatening accidents 6 months apart when I was 18, and I touch on those in the book because they are part of, I feel, what allows me to navigate space, I guess I would call it, between the worlds. It took me a long time to digest those experiences, and writing was part of it. How the book took shape was that I was collecting some stories because I have been with friends and John Shields, and also a beautiful woman on the Sunshine Coast named Sid Valentine, who entrusted me with walking with her the last 8 or so months of her life. And then she actually chose a medically assisted death as well. And I think I wrote to help process my own experience as well. And so I had these pieces. I wasn't sure what I would do with them. I didn't want to just put them out there. I also wanted Sid's family to also weigh in if they wanted her story shared, her son specifically. And after my dad died, I would say during the time of his death, because I'm a journal writer, I was writing my experiences. And then there was this moment when I started writing the story of I started writing the 53 days. Like, what was I doing those 53 days? And I was living 3,000 miles away from him. And his voice was getting worse and worse. He was stuttering. I couldn't understand him that well. In many ways, my mom was translating our conversations, and yeah, and questioning myself. Why am I not jumping on a plane? Does the date, that he's dying on August 25th, is that holding me back? Or like, do I feel safer that I'm going to be there, on the day? Like, what about these days? And what is my, what's my relationship with him? Do I have unfinished business? Like all this, and I thought that maybe I would put a little bit of my father's story at the end of these narratives. And then, of course, Betsy Warland, my mentor, said, I don't think things are in this order. And so I took myself on a little retreat, and I took the pieces of the manuscript with me, and I started to feel how they belonged together. What happened was just this beautiful alignment of my father's story being the arc, those 53 days holding my reflections. of the recent past and also the long distance past of my life that brought me to this moment to hold space and be present and feeling as my father left.
Your relationship to the earth plays a role, right? Both in how you perceive our relationships as humans to the earth. Do you feel that that's something that you've always shared with people? That it's there too in your writing as
Mm,
well as in your teaching?
mm. Well, I can attribute my deep connection with the earth through years of continuum movement practice and long time work with Susan Harper and Emily Conrad, especially Susan Harper, in perceptual work and really feeling how the body belongs to the earth and space. And that as a felt sense experience, there's like no greater resource for me now in the moments of turmoil and all the chaos that's happening right now can send us up and out so quickly. And for me, I feel like down and in is where I want to be and where I feel my greatest sense of belonging to to the earth and to all beings. Think about it, when your feet are on the ground and your butt's in your chair, you're connected to the earth and you're connected to all creatures, all living beings. We all share this amazing connection through gravity. And, I think, why deny gravity? It's your greatest gift.
Say a little
One of my
bit.
students said, gravity is sanity.
Yes.
And I said, wow, I'm going to eat that. I'm going to eat that up. And
Tell a little bit
mm,
about continuum movements because you've been a teacher for a long time and you worked
mm,
with the founder, Emily Conrad,
mm.
and Susan Harper. Say a little bit for listeners who wouldn't know what that is.
Well, gosh, I mean, I feel so much appreciation to these two amazing people, Emily Conrad and Susan Harper, because continuums, inquiry based practices that really break the spell of our modern fitness movement, which is based in military training. Like, why would we ever want to subject ourselves to be soldiers and to militarize a body that is so fluid and alive and more water than any other element beyond space, of course, which is hard to grok. But yeah, and the inquiry with the fluid dynamics of the waters in our bodies and the waters in the lake. I'm a lake swimmer. That's in my book a lot. I mean, it's a resource for me. I go sometimes right after a funeral and swim for 40 minutes in a lake. Breath is is life, and when we're holding our breath, we're holding some part of ourselves back. And what I love about continuum is that the breaths are playful. There is no perfect breath. These breaths are offered as inquiries, and to see what happens when you explore and take them up in your own experience.
And it's interesting, I think, that because you've been engaged in a practice that is about being fully present in the body,
Yeah.
it seems almost inevitable that you would want to bring that same attention to when we leave the body.
Yes, it's true. You know, I spent years, as many people do, loathing my body as a young person, and also I would say, through the accidents, kind of disengaging from my physical experience through trauma, and not really understanding it at the time. That was a long time ago, 40 some years, not understanding trauma or PTSD. And Continuum also was this gentle, non-invasive or forcing way of sliding back into the body and a deep care and reverence for the body. I loved when John Shields said that to me. I think the body should be cared for in death as it is in life. It was also another kind of landing moment for me. Yes, this makes sense. This is why I have such a deep care for this time in the death process. What happens to the body and how soon and with who, and who gets the gift of being present.
Listening to Writers Radio and Penny Allport reading excerpts from her manuscript, Bringing Death Home. She's been talking with me, Ingrid Rose, your host for this program. You can find more about Penny's work online at her website, movingceremonies.com. Much appreciation for my co-host and co-producer, Carol Harmon, and to our co-producer, Gary Sill, who also provides technical and musical support. And to you, our listeners, thank you for being there.
You have been listening to Writers Radio, a non-commercial collaborative project which presents talented writers reading their own work. These stories, essays, and conversations revisit the long tradition of oral storytelling that connects us to the inspiration behind the words. Be sure to check the website, writersradio.ca, to subscribe to our free notifications list. It's also a way of letting the writers know you are there and appreciating their creative work.
Writers Radio broadcasts from Half Moon Bay on the Sunshine Coast in Canada, traditional tribal land of the Sechelt Nation of the Coast Salish peoples. We express our gratitude for their wisdom teachings and land stewardship.